Play 2, 1-2, top of the league. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Here we are then, boys. I'll open the floor. Dave, how are you feeling?
I'm very well, thanks, Ben.
Not just generally. How are you feeling about what's going on here?
No, it's pretty good, isn't it? I think it's pretty much as much as we could have hoped for the first week, I would wager, probably.
Joe, we spoke so much, didn't we, about this idea of clubs that are ready to go and clubs that are not ready to go. Is that really what we're seeing here at the start of August?
I think it's definitely helping, isn't it? The fact we are effectively playing the same team that finished last season. I know there's a difference in goalkeeper, but this is a squad that's been together a long time, and it probably still needs a couple of extra bodies to really help push on and take advantage of this strong start. But ultimately, what we got now is just a continuation of last season. And when you look at the records that are currently tumbling, you can see that it's just pure momentum is just carrying us through, isn't it?
Dave, are we reaching a podcast peak here? Maybe.
I think we probably are. I thought about this earlier. Didn't we that 4-3 win over Millwall that season? Did we not win the first four?
Hey, can I just come in on that? We did have a winning streak at the start of that season.
Yeah, I know.
It was one of the luckiest winning streaks.
Yeah, okay. No, I'll take your point. Yeah, it wasn't nowhere near as convincing, to be fair, Ben. So, yeah, I think this is probably a high point for the pod. I would probably say, yeah.
Should we end the show there? Let's not end the show there. Let's start the show there, because we're talking today, of course, about Ipswich's 2-0 win at Stoke. 2 for 2, as we said. Only two teams on 6 points. A perfect start, literally points-wise, in the Championship. We're here live and in the flesh on YouTube. Please get your comments in. I'll start popping some of them up as the boys are giving their analysis of the Stoke game. And of course, we'll go to a bit of Q&A. If you want to just put nice, happy thoughts in after lots of moany podcasts over the years, feel free to do that. If you're listening after the fact, do feel free to come and join us each and every Sunday live at 8 p.m. on YouTube. But if you're a podcast, Dave, if they're old school and they're listening on the audio feed, that's absolutely fine, isn't it?
Yeah, like the audio feed.
No, he's old school. He's proper old school. Let's get straight into this then, Joe. And I must actually confess, I didn't think that we would see this 11 that we actually got. Let me just go straight into the teams here. So it was Hladky in goal, Danassian, Wolfenden, Burgess, Davis, Luongo, Morsey, Burns, Chaplin, Broadhead, Hurst. So unchanged, right? No Clark, no Taylor potentially getting ready to, sort of start making his play for a first team shirt. What were your thoughts when you saw it unchanged, Joe?
It's probably what I expect. The only thing I wasn't sure on was Harry Clark, because he'd obviously come on for a few minutes midweek, looked relatively sharp when he came on, but then there were some comments in the press conference before, and it's like, is he going to be about or not? And people had seen him arrive at the stadium, so it was really just him. But once he wasn't in the starting lineup and on the bench, then you thought, well, okay, well, it's obviously he's still not ready to start a league game. So yeah, keeping the same as it was. Obviously, Jack Taylor is the one who's probably going to put pressure on relatively soon, but I thought Morsey and especially Luongo were magnificent at Sunderland, so it's going to be very, very difficult to drop either of them, isn't it? And yesterday's performance is going to make that even harder.
What are you laughing at, Dave?
No, he's not going to challenge them anytime soon. If they keep up that level of performance, it was just ridiculous yesterday from both, really.
Dave, that entire 11, I know George Hurst on loan, played in League One last season.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, I think as Joe quite rightly said, it is momentum and that, togetherness, familiarity, however you want to put it. Just a good feeling around the squad, isn't it? And yeah, I mean, we'll get on to the star performers, but yeah, just a great performance yesterday, wasn't it? So much so that, Stoke got forced into a change after, 34 minutes, was it? Something like that. I mean, you don't really see that often at that level, do you? But yeah, it was pretty comprehensive, really. Yes, had to defend our box a few times, which we did really well. But yeah, just absolutely outplayed them, really.
Let's have a look at the bench yesterday. Jackson, Harness, Hutchinson, Taylor, Ladapo, Ball, Evans, probably need to do some scrolling here, Lee and Slicker. Let's have a look at the Stoke team. Dave, before I read this team, I felt far more trepidatious about facing Stoke maybe going into the game than I did before the season started with all the sort of signings.
Okay.
So it's a very, I don't know, you tell me whether you agree with that or not in a minute, but Travers in goal. I mean, he went up with Bournemouth.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Hoover's in on loan from Wolves. Rose, okay, maybe surplus to requirements at Coventry, but Wilmot's been decent at this level for a few clubs now. Stevens has gone up with Sheffield United. Pearson has been with Alex Neil before at Preston. Josh Laurent at Reading has always been serviceable. Don't know much about Chiquinho. You guys are about to tell me about, and we do know a lot about Dan Johnson, who we've seen over the years many, many times. Vidigal started the season absolutely on fire, and don't know too much about my up top. Worried about this Stoke team going in? Because I was, I've got to be honest.
No, not particularly. I mean, they obviously had a good win a thumping good win last week, but no, not really. I mean, Rich and Seb, not to big them up on the pod, but said, they're very experienced side, got some good experience, got some new young players in from abroad, and were sort of needed to be careful with this one, but just right from the off, we were just absolutely, I thought, dominated them right from the off. Other than that period, perhaps just before half time when they made the switch and bought on the the ex-£20 million striker Wesley. It was sort of, hang on, what?
More like a 20-stone striker these days.
Well, yeah. He, to be fair, Joe, he did make a difference at first, didn't he? He did.
Yeah, he did.
David, as long as it's not Wesley Houlihan, who's got no business coming near Portman Road after he's punished stuff over the years.
It wasn't Wesley Houlihan or Wesley Snipes. It wasn't him either. But
only two Wesleys you know.
I'm sure there's others out there.
Wes Craven.
Wes Craven, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, other than that, no. And Chiquinho, was it, who played right? He was the one that got hooked after half an hour or so. He was fairly anonymous. He certainly didn't appear to be doing much tracking back. It was just a complete change of formation, and I think they pushed Vidigal over to the right then. But no, not for me. Not for me, really.
Do you think you could do a sort of Chiquinho chant to Cecilia, Dave?
Oh, do you think so? I think you probably could. The Simon and Garfunkel track, I'm sure you could. Yeah.
That was kind of an invitation for you to try and do
that. I'll save that for the end. I'll save it for the end.
The great thing is you would have done it in David Bowie's voice, because that's the voice you use.
That's the only voice I do it in anyway, yeah.
So, Joe, Dave's making me feel a bit silly about my opinion on Stoke. Do you agree with him?
The only reason where I thought we might hurt them is because, like you say, we've got this settled team running into it where they've had a lot of changes. But you saw their result last week, and I know it's against Rotherham at home, who are sort of probably tipped to be relegated this year, and probably one of the weakest squads in the division.
Too obvious.
But Alex Neil is obviously a very good manager at this level, and
Agreed.
you never really know with Stoke what is going on, and it does seem like they are backing him, doesn't it? Like they've gone out and given him a lot of time to bring in his players, especially players like Dan Johnson, who are players who've played with him previously. So you'd think that they'd be sort of quite up on his patterns of play. And I thought at times their pressing was good, but we just, like I say, that performance, especially that sort of first half hour, was just out of this world, really, wasn't it?
Let me do the, we've just had it rightly pointed out, what Wes's do you know? Wes Burns, which should have been one that maybe we'd have. But it's like when you get put on the spot, isn't it? What's your favourite song? You can't think of anything. Let me just do the Stoke bench. So we got this completely covered, and you can tell me about that first half hour, guys. The aforementioned Wesley, Dwight Gale, you can still find him. Sidibe, I believe, is that the youngster, Joe? He's probably one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's only 16, isn't he? But
yeah.
It's Mamadi Sidibe's son, isn't it? So
is it actually?
Yeah,
yes,
big mama.
Yeah.
Who was the Sidibe that scored for Gillingham?
Yeah, that's
Big
Mama.
Is it?
And he was at Stoke for a few years too.
Yeah, interesting. Thompson, Lowe, Okagbu, excuse me if I've butchered that. Timon McNally, surprised he's not in the team. And Bonham. Do you want to take me through this start then, Joe, and maybe pass over to Dave for the goal?
Well, just right from the very off, wasn't it? We were right on top of them, and they tried to sort of get some passing going from the back, and twice they passed it straight to Wesley Burns, who got the ball and just broke. One time he ended up we created something. Another time he had a shot, which keeper made a good save, and I don't know if it was dipping over or not. But then it was a corner, cleared away for another corner, then another corner, and sort of in the first 15 minutes, like this, I looked at the clock and I said, bloody hell, there's only sort of like 18 minutes gone here, and we could be 3-0 up at this point, and that just carried on until effectively Sam Morsey puts in a free kick, which he put in one earlier in the game, and I said, why is Morsey taking set piece? It's quite a weak one, and just as he stepped up to take the next one, as I said to my dad next to me, why is Morsey taking these? He never seems to sort of strike them that well, as Luke Wolfenden rose and headed it in at the back post, and 1-0 up, and yeah, just the most positive start. And even the goal didn't stop it after that point. It just carried on. And like I say, it wasn't until they made the change to bring Wesley on up top that things did slow down a bit.
Dave, we've talked about set plays and confidence, and winning teams score set plays and losing teams don't score set plays. I just don't. I think Stuart Watson tweeted, "Remember when Ipswich were rubbish at set plays?" It's not, Dave. It's not a out of the. Is it that great a flat delivery to the back post?
No, I was going to say it wasn't any. It wasn't
like
he's
scoring these all the time.
A Lee Evans whip or anything like that. It's just a good flat ball. I like that sort of ball. He actually hits it right through. He doesn't just dolly it up there. He kicks through the ball, so it sort of spins up. And Wolfenden, who was just magnificent all game, just higher than his man, sort of was adjacent right on the edge of the 6-yard box, and perfect header low. Travers really didn't have a chance really.
Well, Dave, the flat trajectory often stops the keeper being able to run out and come and
good point. Because it's not hanging there. It's drifting. And Joe said he took one earlier and right in front of us the same. And I said to Kieran, I said, why is Morsey taking these? What's going on? I haven't seen this. Is something new. And good delivery in a good area. And Wolfenden was just. I think Wolfenden and Burgess, perhaps Burgess did a bit of blocking there, but good header low, and certainly no more than we deserve, as Joe said. Could easily have been 2 or 3 by that time.
Skip has actually played lyricist here, so I'll do it. Chiquinho, hooked on the half hour. You're off for a shower, Chiquinho. But then you're gonna have to Chiquinho. You're gonna have to do it again. It's good. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's move on to. I think the idea was good. Really, it's the inception there. So we don't often get managers acknowledge in game that they've got it completely wrong and they need to just completely shake it up and get the ball away from their goal. But I'm sure you've watched it. Alex Neil's interview afterwards, Dave. He was literally, we couldn't get out. I needed a big guy up front, and
no, I
made a change after half hour. It was that he was very honest about it.
Yeah, no, he was totally honest. I think to be fair, I know winding up, there'll always be a scammer and stuff like that. But he's always, to be fair, Alex Neil, he's always been fairly straight in front of the, when he's interviewed, he doesn't, there's no real BS from him. I don't mind him. I don't mind him at all. So he had it spot on that they certainly needed an out at that point, and he did, mate. We had a few bits and pieces around the box about that time, for that sort of 5-10 minute spell when he came on, and not till half time, probably 7-8 minute spell. They got a bit more control of the game, were landing on the ball. They did create 1 or 2 problems. Lackey, I think, made quite a good save low down, probably was their best chance, I think. But then we got to grips with it again and again. A beautiful bit of play just before half time where Chaplin slides in and does the hook. So he slides into his man from behind, and as he's sliding, hooks the ball back in one movement. Absolutely brilliant. Lays it off to Burns. That'd have been a picture goal, Joe, wouldn't it? When Burns sort of first time cross and half volley from Hurst sort of seemed to me clip the outside of the post, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought the keeper had saved it, but it looks like it hits the post sort of from that angle. But no, that's just really neat. Really, I say we were just on it, and
nice, dude.
Both the managers said how we sort of went 1-to-1 all over the pitch, and we just all their players just won their battles all over, and we were really, really brave on the ball at the back. We were sort of happy to soak up their press and just work around it. And it was just, I think it was one of those ones where it was only 2-0 in the end, but it was almost like a perfect performance. Yes, Stoke had a couple of chances when they had that little spell, that one before half-time that you mentioned that Hladky saved his feet, and another one after half-time where it fell to, I think it was Pearson and
hell of a block.
Burgess, is it, or Wolfenden gets a block in and just takes it wide. But you're not going to stop teams at this level having chances. So you need that bit of luck to make sure that they don't fly in the back of the goal. And we got that yesterday. But I think if that had finished 4-0 yesterday, I don't think that would have flattered us that game.
No. Actually, that was a good. I forgot about that. Pearson chance was a unbelievable block. When I expected that, it was running to him perfectly. Wasn't central position. You expected that to be, in the corner. But I think
someone in the chat tell us Ben Pearson's career goals to games. I bet it's.
Oh yeah,
it's not that great looking, is it? But I could be wrong. Do you want to take us into the? Got nothing to add on the first half, guys. Do you want to take us into the second half then, Joe?
Well, we came out after half time, and that sort of first 10, 15 minutes of it was a real sort of storm to weather. They really pressed us high up the pitch and were getting the ball back. And we were still trying to play out and we're still doing okay getting out, but there wasn't really anyone for it to stick to up top. So it was coming back. And probably if you look at the sort of territory of the game and the average ball position, that was probably the period of the game where it's closest to our goal for sort of 10, 15 minutes. And you know they're going to get a chance, which we just mentioned about with Pearson shot there. But you just got to stand firm in these times, in these sort of 10, 15 minute spells when teams get those. And I thought we stood really firm. And I think it was the playing out from the back that sort of almost got us out of this, because they kept pressing high and Hladky was sort of really coming out, taking the ball on the touchline, finding Bird, just trying to play the ball into feet and into the midfield. And Morsey, who I thought taking the ball under pressure yesterday, he just took it under pressure so many times and turned, kept the ball, moved it along. And it was just, it felt like just continuing to do the right things and continuing to do what maybe the crowd don't always want to see, but the manager wants to see, is what got us out of that funk. It got us out of that 10, 15 minute spell of dominance by just turning them round and keep doing it. And this is why we do it. This is why McKenna wants us to play like this. But yes, it's not always a comfortable watch at times.
Yeah, in certain areas, high risk, and in certain areas you see, but Morsey is just so good. I don't think he lost possession in that situation once yesterday. And, I've got to say, Hladky's very good with the ball at his feet. Probably is slightly better, I would say. I mean, it's been said before, probably slightly better than Walton with the ball at his feet. And and Joe's right. We once or twice when we needed to take the pressure off, we were able to beat that first press and then, as Joe said, turn around then play. I've got to say, yesterday, Massimo Luongo was like a Terminator yesterday. He was an absolute beast, wasn't he? What a player. And those two just incredibly just complement each other so well. And Luongo just gets around the pitch so well as well, doesn't he, Joe? He's just unbelievable player. Incredible.
We see him pop him up in that sort of left-hand channel up front honestly, as well. And
he is different class. I'd say, I'll get to it in the end, I'd say 3 players yesterday, probably everyone was at a level yesterday. Burns, I thought, had his best game for a while. I thought he was very good. But Wolfen and Luongo and Morsey, I honestly thought, I don't know what you thought, Joe. We'll get to it at the end. God, sorry, Joe. Ben, I'm sort of...
Well, I just think that's great for the signing of Taylor, isn't it? Because I always remember the podcast we did with David Johnson about how to bring players into a team and how it's so much easier when the team's doing well and you can just wait and wait and wait. No one's clamoring for Taylor to get in. And I did just want to pick up on Joe's point, and I totally agree with where you were going with that, Joe. And we know that we don't want to be preachy on the podcast. It's not our job to tell fans what to think and what football they like. And if you don't like playing around the back, that's absolutely fine and that's reasonable. But when we give away a goal, which we will at some point this season, someone's going to nick it off us and score. You have to remember that got us the 3 points at Sunderland, under immense pressure, being able to keep the ball and keep that moving around the back. And we're about to talk about the second goal and the kind of culmination of getting through difficult moments in this game. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater when, I hope we don't, but when inevitably someone's going to nick the ball off us and score at this level. So substitutions, in came Caden Jackson and Marcus Harness. Where did they feature, Joe? What did it look like when they came on?
Well, Harness came on for Broadhead and effectively just took on the same role that Broadhead had. But Jackson actually came on for George Hurst and went through the middle as a striker, as opposed to Ladapo coming on there. And at the time, I thought, "Ooh, interesting." And yeah, again, Kieran McKenna doesn't seem to get anything wrong, does he? And when you see the way Jackson played, it really helped us in sort of to continue that press of their sort of centre back. Like Wilmot was a player they were using to try and start play, and Jackson and Harness, their pressing between them just did not give him a minute or so, a second's time to move with the ball. And you could see why maybe Jackson was preferred to Ladapo, just because his physicality is sort of elite, really, in the way he can get around the pitch and the way he can press people and the way he can keep going with it. And like I say again, we're playing for the second goal. The ball is back at Hladky's feet on the edge of on the sort of very on the byline, right on the touch. I think the ball goes back to him from Morsey. He rolled. I think there's a couple of passes before this, and Morsey drops it back to him there. He's under pressure, knocks it to Burgess. Burgess with a first time ball into midfield, and it's to Harness, and he takes it lovely on the turn, sort of on the half turn, and loses his man. And all of a sudden, it's a bit frustrating because when you see the ITV highlights show, this is the point it picks it up from the highlights. It misses that lovely bit of play in there before, and all of a sudden, Harness is away, gives the ball to Chaplin. Chaplin has an option to go through to Jackson at the start. Jackson makes a really good run there, but he goes across to Burns, and Jackson just it's almost like he's invisible in the box. He just drifts off his man, and Burns, he's got a chance to pick him out and just rolls the ball perfectly to him, and it's 2-0. And it's the thing that has turned the game around is the playing out from the back, which is in this goal. The two substitutions again work perfectly, both involved in this and both do very well. And like I say, it's no less than we deserved, is it?
I should mention, Dave, in the interest of balance, if we'd conceded this goal, we would be commenting on defender having Jackson, and I don't know what the words Joe used to put it. And he it's like he passes him on, and there's nobody behind him.
Well, it is the key.
Loses him, doesn't he?
The key to the goal is Harness. It's Harness spin. Harness really shouldn't. You shouldn't let Harness spin there. You got to take one for the team probably there. If probably because he's probably only midway and a half. And Joe said, I think looking back on it, right in front of me again, I think that Hladky plays the ball to Luongo, who knocks it first time to Burgess. And as soon as Jackson spins his man and gives it to Chaplin, I said to my boy, I said, "Oh, this will be a good goal." And it was just from then on, it was just perfect goal. And not for once, because we're just being a bit harsh on him, but Burns waits his time and plays the right pass. And as Joe said, it's really clever move. Yeah, you could say, he's got between two defenders there, but you look at Jackson's movement, it's really good. Pulls up his man and a really I thought he scuffed it at first, but I don't think he does. He sort of balls a bit behind him and he sort of swivels and just side foots it in the corner. It's just a great goal, really.
Dave, I wanted to just pick up on Joe's point about elite physicality of Jackson. And obviously Jackson's been here under a couple of managers, let's just say. And we've seen a lot of the teams that recruit well are happy to utilize players that have one particular thing that they're extremely good at. And it feels now we have a manager that can actually parlay that into something on the pitch. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, he's clearly liked him since day one. I mean, we all thought coming to the end of the Cook era that he was gone. He was done, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden, if you remember, turns up at MK Dons away and plays that role. Do you remember MK Dons away, the 0-0 game when the season 18 months ago? Well, so more than that. February, wasn't it? And suddenly, clearly he rates him. Clearly he works hard with him on the training pitch. Clearly Jackson's got a very, very good attitude. Really, really must have a great attitude as well because he's selfless, really. And I just think it was lovely for him to get the goal yesterday. But what I would say, special mention for Harness. Harness was really good when he came on as well, wasn't he, Joe?
Yep, yeah, they both were. And again, I think Harness is another one that you could talk about. His physicality, his off the ball, his pressing, the way he can work that. And I'd say good managers can sort of highlight a player's strength and hide their weaknesses. Yeah, and I think that's what he does. That's what he does with Jackson, where he it's almost like he uses them as a little chess piece in certain games. Yeah. If we're playing a team and their left back likes to play really high, he'll put him there because he knows he's going to put him back. Yesterday, when the centre back is the one that they're using to try and build play, rather than bring the Dapo on who can hold the ball, he wants somebody who's going to get in their face all game. And Jackson's just a player that's going to be able to be used throughout the season.
At times when Jackson was on there, it was when they were pressing hard, Hladky was going long to him as well, which I thought was interesting. He was sort of isolating almost a couple of times. It was 1-on-1. Ball didn't quite break for him, but yeah, you could see the intention there.
I'll do the numbers. I'll get the guys' summings up. If you want to put your summings up in the comments, I'll try and read a few out. Apologies if it doesn't get read out. But we are being watched by lots and lots of people tonight, and the chat is moving very fast. By the way, thank you all for your support. And if you could hit the thumbs up button, that helps us out massively. So these numbers, Joe, are just extremely good, as you can imagine. 44-56 in Stoke's favour on the possession, but 2.05 on the XG to 0.63, 22 shots to 9. It comes up one big chance a piece. And I think that kind of bears out your description of how things played out, guys. Give me a summings up on this game, and then I just want to get into a bit more of a conversation about momentum. But you go first, Dave.
Yeah, I just thought we managed the game terrifically well. And Neil sort of said about it in his press conference, didn't he? You know, the crowd. I mean, a big factor yesterday. Again, the crowd was fantastic. You got 29,000 there. You had Section 6 in their new spot in the the upper, the right-hand side of the Cobbold, which I think made a difference. And it seemed to be a really good atmosphere right the way around the ground. And I think the intensity as well. And Neil touched on that in his press conference. The intensity. He said, look, you come here, you really, again, as we. Perhaps at Sunderland, we spoke about it last week. You need to silence. All right, perhaps it's not quite as intense as maybe 40,000 at the Stadium of Light, but even so, you've got to silence the crowd. And he said, what we didn't do 2 or 3 minutes, as Joe said, we nicked the ball high up the pitch, created 2 or 3 good chances, and that's it. We were in the ascendancy straight from the off, and I think we just carried that. We looked so really fit. We really looked really fit and strong right through the team, right through the game. And yeah, I think that was really the difference, really.
Before I go to you, Joe, can we just say a big thank you to Gary, who I believe we met at the Curry, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
£10 on the super chat. Thank you so much, Gary, for that. Really, really appreciate that. Joe, summons up, please.
Yeah, so I was listening to a Premier League preview last week, talking about teams and
Where's
the teams.
He going with this, Dan?
I know, and the teams that came up.
All right.
And so one of the comments.
He's dreaming the next 12 months ahead.
If you're a team that can look after the ball and pass the ball well and counter-attack quickly, then generally you're going to be good in any league, and that's exactly what we do. Every player is comfortable on the ball, and last year, whilst we used to dominate possession, I think that was just because other teams would let us have the ball. Where teams try and go against us now, if anything, it probably plays more into our favour that our counter-attacks and our attacking patterns are so good when we get the chance to do those, and we do those so quickly, and everyone knows where they want to be. I think almost we're not going to get 98 points like we did last season, but almost like the division and the style of teams playing against us suits us more. That there's a lot more space for us to play in, as opposed to sitting there and trying to break down teams where they've got 10 behind the ball. That's hard for any team to do. And I say, yeah, just really positive. We play like a top team, don't we?
Right. Let's try and get our heads around this then, because Dave, it feels even more pronounced this year. And I do agree with Russell Martin's take on the transfer window and how it can distort the first month. I do agree with Joe Fair's point that he made in pre-season about lots of managers new in, lots of teams have changed, and you might get a fair wind for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Where are you with this, Dave? You can give me a bit of both if you want, but where are you with short-term gain that others are going to make up on us in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, more powerful, wealthier teams, more star power, against the possibility that we're actually a good championship side, which I refuse to believe yet, just out of pure self-preservation, however much I want it to be true.
Yeah, you've got another hat to wear, haven't you, as well, obviously. But I mean, no, I think you're right. Yeah, squads, and we spoke about the the trickle down effect from the Premier League and moves, and obviously well publicised. There's been some big moves already this weekend. Looks like, I don't know if it did happen today, but Southampton looks like Ward-Prowse is probably going to go to West Ham if he hasn't done already. I think that was almost done deal. So yeah, I think the bigger clubs with the parachute payments, it will take time, perhaps for squads to settle down. I mean, I looked at looked at the Leicester squad. They won at Huddersfield, didn't they? Yesterday, you look at the Leicester squad and you think, yeah, there's still some players, some serious players in that squad. How many more will go? I don't know. They seem maybe that will be their remaining squad now. But I mean, don't forget, we're still looking to perhaps bring another potentially two or three in. So yeah, our position could change somewhat, but the old cliche, points on the board. Yeah, this is exactly the start we wanted.
What are your thoughts, Joe? And can you understand how I'm trying to pitch this in terms of we have sections in the season, don't we? And there's certainly a lot of sorting out going to go on amongst all 24 of the teams, right through probably, I don't know when the second international break is, but it's certainly going to go right into October, isn't it? Before teams are going to really be perhaps where we are in terms of pattern of play and continuity and momentum.
Yeah, and it's also about sort of strength of schedule at times as well. Because if you look at it now, we've had probably quite a tough start. Sunderland away is probably one of the toughest starts. Then Stoke at home, which I know that's changed recently, but they probably a team that weren't people expected to do well. Then we've got QPR, Leeds, Cardiff is after that. We've sort of got our first 6 games. We've got quite a decent run of fixtures, and if we could really make hay there, our season really cranks up at sort of December time. If you're in a position where you've managed to get some really good points on the board up until that point, and we're second going into the start of December, just even though you've got harder games coming up, the momentum just is all in your favour at that point there, isn't it? So just the way that the fixture system works for you, it can just totally kickstart your season. So when you're playing a team that you think is a hard game, if you're playing them when you're second as opposed to 14th and hoping to get in a better run.
Say it then, Joe. You're talking about Leeds, aren't you?
Yeah, Leeds. I think that's a really good time to play Leeds. We've got
sorry to interrupt.
To play there.
Sorry to interrupt, Joe. I was just going to say before, I was terrified of that fixture, and if I could swap Leeds and QPR around a week now, get them up here next week. Do you know what I mean? That's where I am now.
Yeah. Jack Harrison looks like he's going today, and it's. Like I said, their takeover dragged on into the summer, didn't it? Dragged on really late, and now they're just massively behind where we are. And we've got to make if we want to mount a promotion campaign this season, if we want to mount a tilt at the top 6, this is the time when we need to get points on the board, because any points we get now, they count the same as what they do when you're in March, don't they? This is the time to do it. And yeah, we might be getting ahead of ourselves just because we've won 2 games and won 2 games well, but I don't think we've got a huge amount of fear in this division with regards to we're going to be looking up, not looking down, aren't we?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you to the guys in the chat. A few people said it's the 14th, 15th, that weekend of October, and there might be fans of certain teams who are thinking, right, okay, if we've sorted out a moving by that weekend, then I'll be happy given what we're looking at now. Right, we're going to get into the other goings on in the Championship. Then we're going to get to your questions, and then we'll have a little look at QPR and whatnot. But first, a message from our sponsors.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
Right, guys, let's have a look at what else went on in the Championship. I was going to be really smug then and say the stuff going on below us in the Championship, all the other 23 teams. Look, it's been terrible for 7 years of the podcast. If I can't enjoy our historical highest position since whatever it was, 2018. Yeah, let's indulge ourselves for a second. Right, I'll bash through these results, guys. If you want to pick out 1 or 2 that you want to kind of talk about and just how the division's starting to shape up. It's Coventry 3, Middlesbrough 0. Borough look a shadow of the team of last season. Coventry, Hamer now out, but they look like they've retooled fairly well. Birmingham 1, Leeds 0. Leeds are a mess, as Joe just discussed. Cardiff 1, QPR 2. Wow, they needed that. Huddersfield 0, Leicester 1, in second gear for Leicester as well, which is a bit worrying for everybody. Hull 4, Sheffield Wednesday 2, still 0 points for Wednesday. Millwall 0, Bristol City 1, right late in the day there. Preston 2, Sunderland 1. Sunderland started with 2 defeats. Now, Rotherham 2, Blackburn 2. That was a comeback from 2-0 down and an interesting red card that I'm sure will come up in the chat. Southampton 4, Norwich 4. How about that? Watford 0, Plymouth 0. Well played, Plymouth. Good start by them, 4 points. West Brom 3, Swansea 2. What's jumping off the page to you, David Diamond, there?
I don't know really. I think I know you're big on Millwall. Bristol City, decent result. Win at Millwall, good. I've got to say.
And Alex Scott is now gone since we've last spoken, hasn't he?
Yes, for what, 20 million plus?
20 million, 5 million add-ons, but we don't know.
Yeah, wow. Plymouth, good point of Watford. Watford obviously hit the ground running. Hammered QPR last week, so a good, decent result for Plymouth there. Sunderland, a touch unfortunate. Did you see Will King's goal? Exactly the same as Nathan Broadhead's last week. Totally bizarre. Absolutely the same, wasn't it? Really, really odd. But no, other than that, and then I must admit, the Norwich game, leaving Portman Road, I thought, it looked like they were top and we were second. So it looked like they won 4-3. And then
other way round, Dave. We would have still been top on goal difference.
Oh, we would have still been, okay.
But I discussed with a couple of Norwich fans on Twitter this morning. If you want to laugh, go and look at my Twitter feed.
And then imagine my I say delight. Imagine my surprise that they conceded a 97 plus 1 penalty, which was obviously reversal of their winner against Hull last week. So yeah, some interesting results there. You made a good point about Leicester. Yeah, again, the highlights showed they looked a bit in second gear, really.
Joe, you got to add?
I think the interesting one is QPR's win at Cardiff, which looked very, very smash and grab when you look at the stats in it. The sort of number of touches QPR had on the ball, which is not very many, as you can imagine. It's just hump the ball long and try and get things there. Sinclair Armstrong causing problems. I think Cardiff hit the bar a couple of times, but the reason I bring that one up is because obviously we play QPR next week, and I think it's much better going into that game at Loftus Road with QPR having 3 points on the board as opposed to having 0 points on the board.
Joe, surely that's confirmation bias. Do you believe that?
Yeah, because I think if you go there with 0 on the board, they're just going to be there thinking we just need to stop the rot effectively. We need to get ourselves a point here.
Like Bristol Rovers did on Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, potentially. And I used to know that when we used to play under sort of Mick, if we lost a couple of games in a row, 2 or 3 games in a row, it's just he always found a way that you need to stop losing before you can start winning almost. So we're just going to go and get a draw. And I think Ainsworth would have had a similar mentality. So now I'm sort of quite pleased that we're not going there against them like that.
I did know that Andre Dezelle played the full match yesterday, the full 95 or how many minutes it was yesterday. I'd be interested to see him up against, if he's playing that role in centre mid against Sammy Morsey and Luongo.
As well, QPR actually playing midweek, don't they? Because their home games were delayed, weren't they?
But yeah, that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, that was certainly a big win for Ainsworth, wasn't it? I mean, the Sunderland one again. Sunderland, as I've touched on that, the Will King goal, but that's 2 defeats obviously in a row now, and it's seemingly reading between the lines. All is not well between Mowbray and the owners, so we understand. So yeah, that's an interesting position at the moment.
That feels like a ticking time bomb, that one, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Early days, obviously.
Right, guys. I'm going to go to the table in a minute, which you're all going to enjoy. Get your questions in if you can. They're so well trained, aren't they? Stick a Q before it and a question mark after it. That'll help me pick them all out, and we'll go to the guys for some. And then we will look ahead to the QPR game, not in great detail because the boys will do that much better than we will right now. They did it on Thursday night show. There is the league table. 9 teams started the weekend on 3 points. 2 of those teams were beaten. 5 of those teams drew. And only the strong survive at the top there on 6 points. The perfect start. There's not really a hell of a lot else to say. Couldn't have been better. I think I'm trying to remember back, Joe, to our kind of prognostications. I think I was like, take a point at Sunderland, see what you can do against Stoke and QPR. If you can get 4 out of those 2 games, you're looking good. Fully expecting to lose against Leeds, but it all feels a bit different to that now, Joe.
Yeah, I think people were talking sort of 7 or 8 points over August. If you could get 8 points, that's a decent month to go with. So, well, we're 6 already in 2, and you don't want to. like I say, you don't want to go too mad with what's happened so far, but it's not just the actual victories; it's the manner of the victories as well. I think. Well, Sunderland, maybe that could have gone another way on another day, but I thought we deserved the win there. But yesterday was as sort of comfortable and good a win as you're going to see at this level. Yeah, 2-0 doesn't sound all that great sometimes when we used to winning 6-0, 6-0, 4-0, 3-0 last season. But it just felt like another game last year. More intensity to it, but I think that's the 10th win in a row at Portman Road since that Sheffield Wednesday game now. And it's just, and I think in that time we've only conceded like 1 or 2 goals in that time as well. So it's just, like I say, it is turning into a fortress again, isn't it?
Crazy time. And that second goal was a goal very reminiscent of any goal we scored last season, wasn't it? How many goals did we score like that last season? A few, I'd say. It's carried over.
Right, get your questions in, guys. I'll scroll up a little bit and see where we are starting. Let's start here. Joe, when do you see Taylor coming into the side from Matt?
Hard to see at the moment, isn't it? Because Luongo and Morsey are just absolutely on another level at the moment, aren't they? And I'm not saying he's not going to find a way into the team, but I wonder whether he finds a way into the team more as a sort of 10 in sort of later on in games, coming in at sort of like 60 minutes when we need to sort of try and retain possession a bit more, but still have a bit of goal threat on the break, and it becomes a slightly different role. But he'll find his way into the team at some point, and there may be an injury, there may be form, there may be midweek games, but I say Morsey and Luongo have been absolutely superb in both games, haven't they? And they just give us such a strong platform to play from.
If they stay fit and available, there's no way he's getting past them. No way. Just don't see it.
Dave, Padger, Night Badger. Any chance we go back in for Selena before
Where
the deadline?
did that come from? Wow.
Padger, Night Badger.
Well, okay, fine. Selena, where even is he? Well,
I don't know, actually.
Assume he hasn't even got a club, Joe.
He was at Stoke last year, wasn't he?
He
on
was
loan
for
second
fair,
half.
Yeah.
I guess he's still contracted to Dijon, but I don't know.
I don't really see that. Do we? Do we see that? I don't see it personally. But did he? You lose track. Did he play? Did he play under at the start of McKenna's? Was he here then? Yeah. Was he?
Yeah.
At the end of that season. Yeah.
He was. Yeah. Personally, I know that's the first I've heard any sort of any notion of that. So I'd be quite surprised at that. Still hoping for the lad from Crystal Palace, to be fair.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a big fight for him over the next few weekends, doesn't
it?
Joe from Charlie, does this good start make it slightly easier, more appealing to bring new players in the window? Won't do any harm, will it?
Yeah, no, I think it absolutely does, because there's obviously an issue with getting players over the line, and whilst we can all see the project that's going on here, maybe to the outside view, Ipswich is seen as a club that hasn't been in the Premier League for 20 years and things like that, and maybe doesn't have the same name as opposed to even like a Stoke or someone like that, who are sort of a Premier League club and have been for a lot of years in the last sort of 15. They've probably spent 10 of those in the Premier League. So we've got some building to do. But if you keep winning, I think there's a lot of talk of McKenna in the game, but you see there's a lot of winning, and if we stay in that sort of top part of the league, we're going to be a very attractive proposition to players who want to maybe get a sort of promotion on their CVs.
It was a great chat in our Telegram group earlier. They said that perhaps the roadworks on the A12 and A14 might count against us.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I do agree with that. Yeah, Dave, Joe, why was Luongo only given a 1-year contract?
Well, I think
is there an option on that?
I don't know, but last year there was talk before he signed for Middlesbrough that he wanted to move back to Australia. At 13, he'd signed a short-term contract with them to try and get something for the World Cup. That's why his contract expired in January. So we then signed it from there. So maybe he still does want to get back down south for family, or sort of back down under for family reasons. And he wants to go there in sort of a year. But I think if he has a year and he plays as well as he has done through the back end of last season this year, I think we'll be making him an offer to stay for another year, and it might just keep going like that. But
yeah,
I guess it's an agreement between player and club of what suits everyone best at the moment.
Yeah, you think if he keeps playing like he's playing, in the enjoyment he must get at playing in a team like that that would keep him. He's perhaps got just renewed vigor, renewed enthusiasm for the game. Maybe he just fell out a bit out of love with the game when he was at Middlesbrough. Probably did. Back with some injuries as well.
I'll stick with you then, Dave. Ashley, do you see Ladapo being here past the window closing?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see why not. I think at the moment, certainly, there's not too much cover. All right, Jackson came in and played a slightly different role yesterday, didn't he? Played that through the middle role, but yeah, an injury. There it is. There it is. An
Jesus
injury.
Christ.
An injury to Hurst, and then you're injury to Hurst, then you're up against it, aren't you?
And I think with Ladap as well, there's just a lot of trade. We're obviously struggling to bring players in it, and there's a lot of trading that's going to need to take place for him to go, because effectively we're going to need to sign 2 strikers to lose him. Where
Right, yeah.
I think ideally we want to bring one more in. I think we want Ladapo to effectively be number 3 between Hurst and another to rotate it, but I just think it's going to be difficult to get it all done. It's a lot of work to do.
Norman, given the comments McKenna made about transfers, is Ashton finding this window harder than expected? I think that's probably right, isn't it, Joe?
Feels it, doesn't it? When
Yeah.
you hear about the sort of players we've gone in for, like an Ellis Sims, and all of a sudden Coventry have blown us out the water. It seems like there's a lot more teams in that sort of middle tier of Championship clubs that have got a bit of money to spend this year, because they've done some good trading in the past. Maybe like Millwall, maybe next with that Dutch guy maybe going as well. That's quite a few million quid that could release. Obviously, Coventry have had Gyökeres and Hamer go, so there's a lot more
Bristol
in that market.
City have now got money, haven't they?
Bristol City have got the Alex Scott money, and you see, obviously, well, we assume it was Luke McNally, but when you hear Mark Ashton talking in his interview when he's over in Austria, and he's talking about, oh yeah, there's 2 or 3 very close. It sounded quite bullish about it.
Bench at Stoke, dearie me.
Yeah, and he's quite bullish about it, and then obviously that deal falls out of bed for whatever reason, and now it doesn't sound like anything is close. So it's almost back to square one, and probably just going to go right to the end of the window.
Dave, much as Rich, Wolfen and Morsey with Longo, contributions of Burns, Harness, and Jackson. We've speak a bit about Burns, Dave, specifically in terms of this kind of very gradual steps up and up and up, and he makes the grade every time, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He was much better yesterday. Really, really was. I say much better. It's only been one game, Sunderland game, wasn't it? But I think he was pretty much on it from. Made a really good break really early on that first shot of the game, which you could say from Travers. I think that was probably just about heading in. Joe would perhaps had a better view than that, but yeah, he was just on it. He just appeared on it throughout the game. And how on earth Ender Stevens and the other left-sided player did not pick up yellow cards yesterday? I mean, 2 or 3 times, but he assaulted him, for Christ's sake. But he was really back on it yesterday, and obviously a great assist for the second goal as well. Yeah, he comfortably he'll make the step up as well.
I'll stay with you, Dave, quickly, because you love Kyle Edwards. Mr. Ipswich Town, that's Paul Lambert. What do you think about Edwards leaving? Genuinely think he can give us something different?
Yeah, look, he does, and yeah, I'm a very big fan. I think, yeah, he's not going to start, but he's certainly an impact player. And he does give you something different on the bench. And yes, 1 or 2 games last season, he did certainly change. But from what we understand from from the manager's sort of press this last week, is that it appears to be kind of a mutual thing that look, it's Edwards. He wants to start. He's 20. He's no kid, is he, anymore? He's 25. I think he's got a year left maybe on his contract. He's 25 and he wants to go somewhere to start. So yeah, I was pleased to hear that was the case, rather than him getting, I didn't think it would be him getting bombed out. So yeah, at 25 you can't blame the lad for wanting to move somewhere and get regular football, and he will somewhere. Whether it's in the Championship, don't know, but he'll find that somewhere. And good luck to the lad. Clearly, he's seemingly a really cheerful guy to have around the place. He's got seemingly a really good attitude as well. Yeah, but he's just not going to get. It's just how we're set up. He's just not going to get a start, is he? Especially with Hutchison coming in as well. It's
an interesting question from John, actually, which harks back to our thing about Jackson and have you found the right role that hides his weaknesses? So it sounds like I'm being tough on Jackson. I'm just saying I think he's got one thing he's really excellent at, and they've kind of speed, kind of run, speed and running in behind. Yeah. But John asked, do you think Jackson is now back considered a 9 as well as a wider forward after his appearance yesterday?
I think he's almost a utility forward, isn't he? I think he's one that certain games will suit him in different roles in there. I don't think he's a player that you say, oh, we're going to start him as a 9 for 4 or 5 games in a row, because we've seen enough that isn't going to work for him. He can't be that type of player always, and I just think he's just a very versatile forward that is just going to be used in a position that McKenna can see that it exploits somebody, whether it's a space in behind, whether it's a pressing trigger, something like that. But I think he's just a utility player almost now, as opposed to a 9. I think he's just a utility forward almost.
This is from John. This is a good question, actually. Is there an argument that was still yet to be properly tested at the back against a team with an established number 9 centre forward? I think I agree with John that as much as Stoke had a good win on opening day, they weren't a big test, and Sunderland had.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, they had those big. I can't sit here and say teams are going to take 8 weeks, Dave, to sort themselves out and say we haven't had a big test after 2 games yet. But John's kind of right, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Stoke really didn't have much threat, and certainly Sunderland didn't. Well, certainly not through the middle. Certainly from wide, they did with Clark and Roberts last week. And Stoke didn't really have any great threat through the middle. So I think John probably makes a good point. And as Joe touched on earlier, the QPR striker, was it Sinclair?
Sinclair Armstrong, yeah.
Sinclair Armstrong, yeah, might be perhaps a slightly different challenge on this coming weekend.
He's a youngster though, Dave.
He's not established. Exactly.
Established.
He's not established. I mean, looking through the fixtures, Ben, the Championship, looking through the fixtures coming up.
Leeds are all on strike, aren't they?
Leeds are all on strike. Probably, maybe
for Cardiff,
Cardiff, maybe Sheffield went. No, Huddersfield before. No, yeah, Sheffield Wednesday maybe. Established striker Smith or something like that, who does cause us problems.
Oh, he'll be back. He'll be back with Warney at Derby before September 1st. Don't worry about that. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
Joe. Even more important, we get the correct style for a potential Humphreys loan. Have heard Oxford are keen. Can Joe confirm? Even the no on this one, Joe.
No, I'm not. But it wouldn't
he
surprise
us if he was, really,
Dave. Sort of Liam Manning and Chris Hogg there. I know George Burley, I think he mentioned on Live to Pitch that he sort of goes down there to watch nearly all their games as well. As well as the Ipswich games, he watches a lot as well. So
yeah,
there's obviously strong links there between the academy, the Brian Kluges, and people like that, and those guys, and they do play a sort of very easy on the eye style as they did there. And that's probably as good a fit as anywhere if he's going to go somewhere.
Be a really nice move. When he came on, I've got to say, when he came on Wednesday against Bristol Rovers, he looked really sharp, really, really sharp. All right, it was late on in the game, and he did come on with Chaplin and Hurst as well, which I suppose made a slight difference. But he did look quite good. So I agree with Joe. Yeah, Oxford played the right way. That'd be a really nice move for him, I think.
I'm going to Derby Oxford on Tuesday, actually. So if they could sort that out in time, I can give you an in-person report. Dave, Ian, do we expect teams to start parking the bus like League One teams did if we keep winning, and how long before they do?
You could probably answer that one better than me. Do you see that?
Not in. Well, I mean, Ian specifically asks when.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Joe, actually. I know I was kind of being a bit playful with him about QPR, but Joe's right. There would have been more chance of QPR parking the bus if they hadn't won yesterday. And again, Cardiff and Errol Ballou are still in the first month. You can't take over a club and stick everyone behind
expensive.
Behind the ball. But when it gets into autumn and teams are struggling and managers' livelihoods are on the line and they don't want to lose, maybe
we're 6 points clear at the top. Yeah, you're right.
It's ridiculous, Dave.
Yeah.
Skip, question for BB. I'll take it. Have we played these teams at an ideal time when they are subpar versus last season? It is probably a bit of both, isn't it? I do think we caught Sunderland at a good time, didn't we? I think, like you said about Mowbray, there's a little bit of chaos there, and it's obviously easier to play Sunderland without Ross Stewart than it is with Ross Stewart. With Stoke, we kind of mooted it, didn't we, with double figures coming in? And I mean, you guys were at the game. I wasn't yesterday, so you'd be able to confirm to me that they haven't settled yet as a team, despite winning the first game 4-1 against Rotherham. And I'm hopeful that we might get the timing against Leeds as well, like we've mentioned a couple of times with all the Go on,
do you expect to have seen Nonta move by then?
Well, whatever happens, I don't expect to see him at Portman Road. I think that's pretty much a
I meant to ask you earlier, just checking back, what's happening with Akpom and Borough?
He's going to Ajax, isn't he?
Has he gone yet or not?
Yeah, so that Joe makes a good point. That's another team that's going to have 14 million or whatever it is incoming that you can add to, if you're in the market for a 2 million quid player, or, that starts to go up, doesn't it?
Has he actually gone? 'Cause I know last week he was on the bench for Borough, wasn't he? But
It sounds like it's all been agreed today. I think he's over
David
there for a
Ornstein's
medical.
pretty reliable on that, and he's reported it, hasn't he? So, right, let's have a little look ahead, guys. Thank you so much for all your questions. Brilliant stuff down there. And come on, guys, if you're going to try and troll me in the questions, you've got to try a little bit harder than a couple of the attempts that were wanted to be read out. You've got to get up early to beat me, I'm afraid. So QPR next week. Dave, Joe's kind of theorised that it was actually all right that they got the win. How are you feeling about QPR? Because week one, they were everybody's basket case. Oh my God, what's happening to QPR? 4-0, terrible. It was 4-0 at half time as well.
Yeah.
Stunk it out last season. Major shareholder went, technical director went, club captain went, 3 managers last season. That was the 4th win in 31 championship games. That was yesterday. So they have been rancid since Mick Beale went back in October. They haven't played at home yet. They play Norwich in the League Cup in midweek. So Richard and Seb will know more after that game. But they don't become 10 times harder following an away win at Cardiff, do they?
No, Ben, we should go there with so much confidence. We will be on a high, won't we? Look, there's no full week of training. There's no midweek game this week. We should go there absolutely brimful of confidence. I've seen us play with all B now. I've seen us play. We never seen a. I mean, we have over the years. I know there's a 3-1 win. I think Walt was at school way back when, and but our record at QPR isn't great, is it? It's certainly not great. So. Yeah, it's and it's a tough, tight little ground. Whether it'll be a full house or not, I don't know. I mean, I know we've certainly sold all our tickets. They were sold before they even got the season tickets, I believe, last week, I think. So it'll be a good atmosphere, tight little ground. But we should have so much confidence going into that. And I tend to agree with Joe that it was probably a positive thing that QPR got the 3 points yesterday, because it really would have been, really proper backs to the wall stuff from them next week. So perhaps, they will perhaps play a more expansive sort of game. But I am pretty confident, I think, about that one.
Chris is do another question. QPR, very tight pitch. Does this favour our style or not, Joe?
Probably not. The fact that we've extended sort of Portman Road, we've made it 4 yards longer, as wide as we can. McKenna obviously wants a bigger pitch because we've made the pitch as big as it possibly can be. So we obviously prefer that. But I think it's just a rocking Loftus Road is always a tough place to play because the fans are right on top of you. But do we think it will be a rocking Portman Road? A rocking Loftus Road. I don't think it will be. I don't think the fan base have sort of got that in them at the moment. It feels like they're a club just in sort of peril, really, doesn't it? I know they've won last week, but I don't think it doesn't feel like a fan base which is right behind the team and what's going on there and believes in the project and is going to help push them on. I think the crowd there, if we just sort of standard manager bingo before an away game, isn't it? Keep the crowd quiet for the first 15, 20 minutes, getting them turned on the home team and then go from there. But really, it's a cliche, but it is true. That is what you need to do. And it's what we did at Sunderland last week after we'd sort of stopped them. It's what Stoke didn't do to us yesterday, and it's what we hope to do to QPR next week. We get out there and sort of boss them from the first whistle.
Ben, odds on Gareth Ainsworth being back at Wycombe before the end of the season?
Stop it. I'm not going to answer that one. But I'll answer that one with a question, though, Dave. Do you think if Michael Carrick has 14 million quid coming to Borough's bank account, he might fancy a bid for Ilias Chair and or Chris Willock in the next week, please?
Yeah, no, that's a good... well, again, I've lost track. What about the other lad out on loan last year, Archer?
He's back at Villa and he's available to transfer.
Villa,
yeah, and Burnley are doing Ramsey, the other lad who was really good on loan. That looks like that's happening, doesn't it, next week?
It's happened, isn't it? Oh.
Has it happened?
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
no, I don't know. I can't keep up, but it does look like, I know Joe and I have tried to preempt all these little bumps in the transfer window. It does feel like with Scott and Hamer and Akpom all kind of going in quick succession that maybe that bump we thought was going to be in the final week of
Ward-Prowse. Yeah,
Ward-Prowse as well, and we're expecting Flynn Downs to go in on loan.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
To
I'd
Southampton.
be interested on your sort of general championship view on this, Ben. But it seems like every summer there's always like, oh, all these players could go. But it seems like this summer, all those players that could go are actually going. Where it doesn't seem like normally, oh, they might go, and then a few of them end up staying there. But it seems like your Gyökeres, Hamer, Akpom, Scott, every single one who's been linked with a big move is ended up making this big move. So there's a hell of a lot of money flooding back into the championship this year. Where I don't know, it just seems strange that they're all actually happening.
Well, Joe, do you not think that that's just an acceptance now of the landscape of if you don't have that lovely big fat broadcast bonus that the parachute teams get, that you just know you've got to flog them? You know,
I think it's more that they want to rather than have to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That they want to get the money. Because even the parachute teams are losing all the players that you expect them to lose. They're all losing them all, aren't they? I guess Dewsbury Hall is probably the only one so far that doesn't look like he's going, but there's a long time to go between now and the end of the window, isn't there? Yeah.
It does feel a bit of a balmy transfer window, and the more I think about it, the more sometimes when I hear the managers saying they would like it moved back far closer towards the start of the season, I think they're just moaning, Dave. But I tend to have some sympathy with them this summer.
I think so. Yeah, as Joe said, there's been a lot of big championship moves, hasn't there? But yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. Look, it'd be lovely. I think if we can maintain our sort of current level and keep picking up these points. Yeah, you're quite right. We're never gonna, we're not gonna keep picking up wins, but keep picking up these points, and then the icing on the cake would be perhaps 2 or 3 more new signings come in to bolster the squad, and then honestly, you think
Dave wants 15 points from the first 5 games.
No, I didn't say that. Didn't say that. But you know what I mean. Yeah, the feel good factors at the club, and as you said, the start we've had, the influence it had, or if anyone, any potential signing is sort of potentially wavering between us and another club. The start we can have can only be a benefit to us, and encouraging said signing to come over.
But Joe, we can't back down from the opinion before the season that QPR was one we were looking at as a potential 3-pointer. We can't change the fact that would make it 9 for 9 if they can go ahead and do it, right?
No, and if we can keep winning, these games where we think on paper there's probably a good chance that we do win those. If we can keep winning those, and Kieran McKenna can keep coming up with a different game plan every week that sort of gets the best out of this squad and showcases us at our sort of absolute best every week, then yeah, you've just got to do it. Make hay while the sun shines.
Joe's right. If you look at the squad, you look at the bench yesterday. There's so much flexibility there, isn't there? There really is. Just he can come up with game plans to really pretty much suit any situation, really.
Yeah.
Depth of squad.
Yeah, I always remember my English teacher saying that you enjoy things in retrospect and not at the time. And I really, really feel we should. I'm sure it will continue to be good, or may get even better. But Dave, we saw some messages in the Telegram today just about how the club feels, and I just think while you're in that moment, it's important to reflect on it. How good does this feel this weekend?
It's incredible. Just the feeling, from the pub yesterday. The pub was at the Graham, was absolutely rammed before kickoff yesterday. In fact, I think Rich got there for our usual spot. I think he got there at 11:15, and it was like a hotel, like a hotel pool in Benidorm sort of thing. All pods were taken. So we surmised that you think going forward, he's going to get there at 9 o'clock and put an Ipswich shirt across his spot, and sort of reserve it. But yeah, it's just, you're walking down the ground, around the ground, the whole feel good factor is just there, and it's just incredible, isn't it? You always hope, with a new ownership coming in, not in 2 years ago, 18 months or so ago, you really hope for it, and yeah, now it's really starting to bear fruit, and certainly I think perhaps much sooner than anyone really would have anticipated. Really, it's incredible, really.
And it's the whole town as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's buzzing.
Like even today, I went over to there was a football fun day, ITFC Foundation Football Fun Day at Kesgrave Community Centre in the fields. And you go there, and as we were walking back, my wife said that there's a boy in a Messi shirt, and she's like, that boy in a Messi shirt almost stands out because he's almost like the first person you see not in an Ipswich shirt, where before you just didn't really see Ipswich shirts about. And then there's hundreds of kids, they've all got Ipswich shirts on the last couple of years, older ones, Goldie shirts, this, that. And I was sort of standing in the queue, and my boy, and this boy speaks to us like, "Oh, did you go to the match yesterday?" I went. I've got a season ticket this year. Oh, I loved that goal. And everyone is talking about Ipswich. Wherever you go in the town at the moment, everyone is talking about the football club, and long may that continue.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. What a lovely Blue Monday podcast to do from the top of the championship table. Yes, we know it's only 2 games, but by God, let us have our little moment, even if it is for one weekend out of the last 5 years or whatever it has indeed been. I think we'll have some pre-recorded content out maybe Tuesday this coming week. Richard and Seb are going to be back previewing QPR on Thursday night. Either of you going to QPR?
Possibly.
No.
I've been set up, but I'm not in the away end. But I will be present at said match on Saturday, which I'm very, very much looking forward to. My first look at our wonderful football team. Please don't blame me if it starts to go wrong when I show up, for goodness sake. I'm sure many people will. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for all your wonderful comments here live on YouTube. And, of course, thank you to all the people listening on the audio feed. Last word from you, Dave?
Yeah, look, let's hope the feel-good factor continues. 3 points next week at QPR, and here's to another joyous show this time next week.
Joe?
Yep, can't wait. You just can't wait for the match at the moment, don't you? You just wish they were tomorrow, but no, bring it on.
Bring it on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. See you very soon.